What's been going on with everyone? Anything new? What's happening? I don't mind starting. I just got back from Denver yesterday afternoon. I was out there for it was like a little mastermind for our life insurance business and meeting some of the people out there that are serving people the right way is it's just motivating. It's just really motivating. So got some, I don't like the word encouragement, but just excitement about coming back and getting back into everything and being with you guys. It's exciting for me because it's like I got some really good ideas for the to implement for our summit coming up. So that will just be improving the experience for everybody when we have that in November. So anybody want to share a success, a struggle that they're kind of working on? I guess I can also go too, but I don't want to be taking up too much of the time out of the gate. All right, well I'll roll on something that I'm working on right now. For those that um, I don't know if anybody's on here, that Richard was at the event last year. So, Richard, if you remember the last building that we went and looked at, the guy that had the antiques, or he had all the, he was in the auction business. He had all of this stuff in this building. It's like 28,000 square feet, huge warehouse in Leeds, Alabama. It's been over just under a year now from him getting all of his stuff out of it. So the building is like completely vacant now. So I've got like three new leads to come in here and rent the space out. So I'm really excited because he's paying me like 10,000 bucks a month. And then the new leases that we're looking at are all going to be paying me 15,000 a month. So the increase in the rent is going to be awesome. But you won't, this is just kind of crazy. Uh, I got a leasing broker, sharing it and shopping it around, but I've also put it on Facebook Marketplace myself for lease or for sale, right? Just putting it out there. One guy that hits me up is like, "Hey, I got a buddy that might have some interest in renting it. I actually own the building right next to you." And I was like, "Oh shit, no way. That's cool. Like, what's your number? Let me just call you." And so we get on the phone. We're talking for 20 minutes probably. And his building is almost identically laid out the same way mine is. There's about 28,000 feet, about 8,000 of it is office, and it's got like 10 offices in there. What this guy's done is he rents it out to like individual businesses that each rent each room. So he's like, if you did that on top of renting out the rest of the warehouse, you would get a chance to improve your income even more. So that's why I'm actually going out there tomorrow morning to sit down with him because he's also interested in selling his property. He follows me on social media and was like, "Hey, I think I'd be interested in when we sell, we'll keep the real estate agents out of it. We can get a better deal together, and then I'd like to do the leave money in the deal option that you offer." I'm just like, dude, that is awesome. His name is Fred Oat or something like that. I was like, dude, that is pretty rad. So you put yourself out there, you would be blown away at what can happen and what can come out. So it was pretty crazy. So that's what we're doing. I'm going out there tomorrow to meet him. Our contractor's going out there on Monday, and we're going to be, getting a quote for all new paint and getting all of those offices kind of up and ready to be leased out individually. So just a cool little idea that, like we're always talking about, just squeezing more juice out of deals. I thought that was a really good idea. And again, it's not really much. It's like 450 bucks. But still, who cares? It's 450 extra bucks that I would have not have had otherwise. So yeah, I thought it was kind of neat. Anybody else working on something that they got something tied up or anything like that?
Yeah, I've got something not tied up yet, but an opportunity where there's since he's going to leave money in the deal if we can get to an
Yeah.
agreement. There's a couple of interesting things I want to run by you. So give me a second so I can pull this up and I'll share.
Yeah. You need to be the see if you can make host. Here you go. Try that. You're on mute, Brian. You're on mute.
Sorry about
There
that.
you go.
So I'm in the Dallas area. I've been spending the last, I'd say, 6 weeks meeting with a lot of different brokers, trying to target ones that I've got some rapport with, and also my age demographic, so we have more to relate about, similar phase in life. So one of the ones, the early on ones, is one that put me onto this deal. So it's in essentially industrial corridor in Dallas, just mostly in central Dallas. The asking price right now is $4.2 million. It's about 40,000 square feet. So, right, let me adjust this real quick to 1 second. I was playing with some numbers here, and I'm going to tell you why. So let's just plug in. So right now, according to the current rent roll, his NOI is 31,000-ish a month, which for the asking price, it's a 9 cap, right? So the first thing I'm like, man, he's selling that pretty cheaply. Well, I did some research and talked and went on site. The first thing, the seller is willing to do a carryback. The red flag is that it's triple net, he states in the leases, but they're not collecting taxes and insurance.
Hmm.
So he's effectively eating that cost, and asked why. And it's because he feels bad for the businesses, is what he effectively said. And I verified with him. I said, "Are you sure? In the lease, they're obligated to pay taxes and insurance." And he said, "Yes." So went down that path. There was, when he bought it about 3 years ago, he bought it for about $2 million. There were 3 tenants in there that had been there for like 10 years or so. What he did is he bought it for two, and then the owner's son is a commercial contractor, so they put up some walls in some spaces that weren't being used. Now they've got 7 tenants. All the leases, except for one, are through 2029.
Damn.
All 5 of the leases are a little bit, let's say 4 out of the 7 leases are a little bit under market. 2 of the leases are a little bit above market, and one of them is right in the conservative area for market rent. Texas Republic, I reached out to the lender. They want to continue carrying the note. So
Nice.
if something goes down, they like the property, the income, obviously, on the interest. So they're open to that. Now, my concern is the tenants. Although 3 of them have been there for a long time, 4 of them are relatively new. They've been there, or one of them's been there for 5 years. So 5, and the other 3, I think, have been 10 plus years. And then the remaining tenants only been there a couple years. Another, let's say, red flag was they're not all on ACH. There's a lot of cash payments.
Yikes.
Yeah, but they do have a rental management company, so they've got somebody that's apparently doing it the right way, so they're recording it and all that. So that's another thing that raises the risk here. Now I want to talk about a little bit of the upside, and I'll show you the OM here in a second. The property itself has the upside for some of the under market areas. One of them is significantly under market. They're like $4.50 per square feet, and it should be around 10 to 11 in this area for this age of the building. There's also 2,000 square foot of this 40,000 that's just being used as storage by the son. The contractor uses just a bunch of equipment in there that we'd be able to.
He's not paying rent.
Yeah, like an office or something similar. He's not renting it; it's just effectively just storage.
I see.
There's also another 5 to 10,000 square feet on the property itself that the son was thinking about putting up a building to add another tenant. So let me get you what this looks like overall. So this is the front page. Went on site, and really the map of the building here it does have some value here. It's within half a mile of Loop 12 here in Dallas, which is a major artery here. I went on property. The facility building looks solid. I do have some concerns about the roof. I'll show you the front facing building here. Where'd it go? Right here. So one of the more tenured tenants is essentially a mechanic, and that's what you're going to see in a lot of this. It's all warehouse and industrial surrounding or related to automotive, except for one of the tenants is what was told to me as a community gaming organizer, and they only open at night. So I asked him, "You mean like gambling activity?" He was kind of. And I said, "You mean illegal gambling activity? He says, no, no, illegal. You know me, I know right away that's not. But I did talk to the broker. Broker didn't seem to care. He's like, really? It's not your responsibility what they do in the building. And I was like, well, we'll see about that. So that's another risk, is that that tenant, something could happen and ultimately it'd have a vacancy there. The biggest risk, I think, as long as all the inspection passed, the roof is good, the HVAC is good, is that once I take over and the tenants have to pay that extra $2.50 a square foot annually, it's a pretty steep increase. So either one or two things are gonna have to happen. Either A, tenants just gonna have to eat it and figure out how to make those payments, or I have to do some type of step up, which means I have to negotiate with the seller some type of credit for that. Or the tenants are going to evacuate after a certain period of time, which obviously is not ideal, but it would allow me to lease up in terms of price per square foot in some of these tenants.
How long are the leases, Brian? How long do you say they were?
6 of the 7 tenants are through 2029, mid-year
Okay.
2029, and the other one is through 2027.
Okay. One quick observation and thought is you've got them tied up. What I do is if I'm you, I'm trying to buy this building at where the current, even though that the leases are triple net, he's only receiving, rent, not any of the costs. So what you can do then is maybe make the offer, and he'll understand this. Like, hey, I got to make the offer based on the existing cash flow, which is what you're generating in income. So maybe you can buy it at, the discounted price, but then when you go and move in or take over ownership, that's when you put the hammer down on all these tenants and say, hey, look, this is the lease that you've signed. And then you immediately begin charging them and you get rid of all those cash, or during the due diligence period, you're moving everybody over to ACH, including those nets out.
Yeah.
That's the way that I try and approach it, sitting down with those tenants and just discovering like, how and why are you not paying what's in the lease? This is what we've agreed to.
Yeah. So I haven't sent the LOI. I'm gonna send it tomorrow. I wanted to just make sure there's nothing out of line here. It's exactly kind of my approach is, and I wanted to run through the numbers here. Is my offer right now at 3.2, based on what the NOI would be if they're paying taxes and insurance, puts me at like almost a 12 cap.
Nice.
But if I dial this down, let's say base it on the current monthly income, it's only going to put me to 8.25 cap. So should I be looking at that offer and lowering it even further with that? When we were going through that, I did mention because the broker selling this did not show up. The son of the owner showed up. He's essentially the contractor. And when I told him, hey, man, you're not collecting taxes and insurance here, I'm going to have to price it based on that because there's risk on that. And he kind of balked and said, well, that's something that you can take care of when you get there. So I obviously I'm going to put the offer out there at a rate that makes sense to me. And they're also on a time constraint.
Nice.
The son is moving to California. The father owns it, did show up, doesn't speak much English, but I guess his father has, up there in old age, so he has to travel with him. So they want to stay close. And the son made it apparent that they need to move. They're targeting the end of summer. So what I'm thinking is I put a number that makes sense to me, keeps me around a 10 cap. And then if he doesn't get any other offers, he may circle back as time starts to dwindle.
I mean, you got a couple of things that are good for a good deal, especially when you got a timeline, you got somebody that's motivated, and you got something maybe wrong with the property, which is a sketchy, not sketchy, but a dicey relationship with the tenants and the leases. That's a match made in heaven right there. I would make the offer based upon the existing rent, like. Even if it's gonna rain, says it's not gonna rain, you're still gonna bring a rain jacket. I would be like, this is where the rental income is of today, seller. If you want the price that you're asking, you need to charge the rent that you're supposed to have, right? That's the way that I would view it. Like, and if the guy's really motivated, he might just be like, well, make me an offer. How much money does he want to leave in the deal?
He was open to whatever, as long as it made sense and they could close. So I was thinking 75% LTV that keeps his amount that you have to leave in for my down payment a relatively less aggressive side. And also I wanted to run by you the interest rate on that. right? Should it be 8%? Should it be 6%? What should I start with? I saw on the performance, it started out at 5, but
Yeah,
a couple of
started
people
at
I know,
5, come together at 6. I do like, 36 months interest only, simple interest balloon on the
yeah,
second position. I mean, that's not gonna, it's not gonna really move the needle one point or another, really. It's just a matter of him leaving 25-30% of the deal.
yeah. So that's where I want to get advice on. Should I be targeting a 10% cap with my offer, knowing that I've got opportunity probably within a couple of years that the rent's going to increase? Plus, let's say I'm half successful with the half the tenants that I'll get them to start paying the insurance and taxes. How aggressive should I price this? You think would be?
Well, I think again, it comes down to these guys' motivations. They got to make a move. So, I mean, how confident are you that you can bump the rents and they can't? I mean, if they're in there for the next 5 years, you know,
Yeah. What's my recourse if they just vacate, right? After a couple of months, or they don't pay initially, and then I got to evict.
yeah, I mean, you're talking about like, depending upon how long these guys have been there, you might be in a big advantage because the longer that, especially these service businesses, I mean, think about it. If they're in this space for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and then they move across town, they're going to lose half of their clients because they just moved locations. And so
Yeah.
when they're in there longer, obviously it just wedges them into that site even deeper. And that's where I would get like like an estoppel, like just from a document saying, hey, look, this is where everything is. Um, I would be like, hey, if you purchase this property, like these are the conditions. Like I'm going to go off of the lease that you have executed already, and you can buy it at maybe a little bit of a discount because he's not earning all that extra income, but knowing that you'll be able to increase the revenues. That's a weird thing to say where I feel sorry for the businesses. Like,
Yeah. The
are they
dad,
making good cash flow? Like that's just is he just a nice old man and he just, I mean,
I
some
can't.
guys don't
That
want to move the needle. I don't know.
that may not even be the truth, right? I'm taking this
Yeah.
grandson face value. The father is probably 80 years old. I think what's happened here is they bought it for 2 million. The son put some money into it. They essentially doubled their tenancy, so they got double the tenants. They doubled their NOI, so now they're looking to get
I see.
$4 million out of this. Let's say they borrowed it. They bought it at 2 million, is what my broker's telling me through the grapevine, and they've had it for almost 3 years now. Just off of basic payments, they should be about 1.5 million
Mhm.
ish remaining or less on the debt. So that's why I'm trying to. If they're trying to move to California, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Is obviously they put some money in for the down payment, but if they bought it at 2, would they accept $1 million return on a $2 million investment? So offered at 3, knowing that worst case scenario for me is if the tenants do not agree to pay and I've got to evict or they evacuate, I would maybe spend 6 months having to lease it up. And in this area, this market's another unique thing. I live in Dallas. I live just east of downtown, so it's heavily Hispanic market. And my wife is also Hispanic, so she talks to me about this all the time. But she feels pretty good, and I'm not gonna say she works in real estate, but she works with a lot of these businesses uh, that I'd be able to lease up similar businesses that work a lot off of cash for these because they're discounts. So one of them's a dealership. That company's obviously ACH. It's they target low credit score, market customers, and then the other ones are mechanic type shops, tire shops, uh, auto part type pick and pull
Hold
things.
down a little bit, Brian, if you don't mind. I want to see what the debt ratio is. I'm gonna say it's probably pretty tight.
You want me to put it at? So that's if it's at 22, but if I did it at the say 32,000 a month, that's where really,
Yeah, that's where it'll pump.
yeah, and that's what I'm trying to look at is it worth the year of really thin margins that two outcomes are a the tenants pay
I
for
think the simple answer, Brian, I think the simple answer is yes. If on the conditions that the guy maybe have the guy leave 30% in the deal,
okay.
and then also your relationship with this bank. If they're pretty comfortable with the asset already, I mean, have you sat down with their guys and they're pretty happy with to lend you money? Have you discussed that with them?
Very surface level, but I haven't told them what the asking price was for it yet. But I told them they were looking to double. So I'm assuming he went back and did the research. He left me a voicemail earlier today, so I'm supposed to reach out to him. Haven't gotten to it yet, but that's my concern is when a bank goes through their diligence, do they are they too concerned about where the rent is coming from, or are they just looking for historical payments that current owner is generating or
The
reporting?
bank's going to look at the leases. They're going to figure out, they're going to do the same thing that we're doing. They
Okay.
might add maybe a little bit more on the vacancy. They're going to stress test it a little bit. So that's why even at you find something that gets a 1-4 debt ratio and then the banker stress test it, that's when you've got a good deal. So that's why when I'm saying if we're showing something that's at a 1.25, which a bank would lend money on, it's the bank is going to go and stress test that. They're going to fudge the numbers to make it more conservative, and then it's not going to pencil. So
Okay.
that's why I'm always saying go to 1.4 because when you go and present that to your lender, they're gonna again, like I said, they're gonna make the numbers a little bit more conservative, more difficult, and it will still pencil at like a 1.25 for them, and they'll give you the loan.
All
So that's
right.
why for me the 1.4 is paramount because the bank is going to make fudge the numbers to where it's because they're conservative, right? Like that's what they're trying
Risk
to do.
taker, yeah.
So um
So when I'm doing this offer, in my mind, I should be doing it based on the potential rent, based on the market, right? Not what it's currently rented at. So that's where I was thinking that I could come in at like 3.2 because I feel pretty confident that there's going to be some type of deferred maintenance. They say there's not, but I'm always going to assume in a building this old, it was
right,
rented in
right.
2000, and I think some of it. But in my LOI, my contingency right now, I've only got built in the. I need to confirm the leases are truly triple net and they're enforceable. And the other contingency was that the tenants would be notified that something's going to close. Those fees are going to be they'll be responsible for paying them, and some type of you say estoppel, but some other type of attestation that they're aware of the increase, and they either need to let me know they are or not going to move forward with their current leases, right? So I have some understanding. Does that make sense? Am I
Yeah,
listening?
yeah. I think that's I mean, I'd try and go sit down with those tenants, get a feel for them. That's what, like I said, it sounds funny, but like I would be trying to get to the bottom of it like sooner than later. Because some people would say, oh, these brokers will say, oh, just tie it up and then we'll do all this stuff in due diligence. But then you're just wasting your time otherwise. Uh,
Yeah.
that's my
Uh,
opinion.
and that's what I want to do. The brokers really tell me that I do not approach the tenants until there's a purchase agreement in place. I feel like that's a little bit late in the deal. One last question for you is in the LOI, do I need to include the contingencies around the roof or HVAC or deferred maintenance? Or is that something that once we sign a purchase agreement, it doesn't matter. If I find something wrong, I can always renegotiate the price if I still want to go through with it and pay my own capital to fix it.
I mean, you can put anything you want in the LOI. It just kind of outlines what the actual agreement's gonna revolve around. I mean, yeah, you can put that and say, hey, this is obviously this deal is contingent upon, an inspection, but that's all in the actual purchase contract.
Okay.
So, really the LOI job is just to say, hey, this is how much we're going to buy it for. The condition of you leaving money in the deal, Mr. Seller, at this interest rate, this many days of due diligence, and then this many days to close. Like that's kind of the one page, LOI.
Okay. And I think the other sticking point is how much he's willing to leave in the deal. All right.
I say make them an offer. I mean, make them an offer. The purchase price. I mean, you make them the 3.2 purchase price, knowing that you're going to be able to increase this big league, and offer him to leave like 40% in the deal, like something crazy. I mean, you never know what he's going to say.
Okay.
Um, and then he'll come back and say, I can't do that. And you say, well, what can you do? And then he might tell you 25%. And you come together at 30. Who knows?
Okay.
Um, but
And
if he
one,
has money in the deal and you got to, and I would reach back out to that bank like tomorrow that loan officer. I get them your financials, I get them your personal financial statement and tax returns just so they can, underwrite you as a person. But if they're already comfortable with the tenant, they're comfortable with the asset as the collateral, then I mean these like think about it from the bank's perspective. Like so far that they've held this debt, this has been a tried and true asset for them to collect interest, right? You as the borrower, I've said it before, but you're the conduit to the bank to earn interest. That's all it is. So they're just changing whoever is on the hook in case someone gets abducted by aliens. But the truth is that they're happy, they're comfortable with the collateral, they're comfortable with the tenants and the leases, and then now it's just the shifting of the owner is changing. That's all it is.
Yeah.
I can't imagine you having any difficulty getting a term sheet from a bank, especially one that already has debt on that property. Like you gotta
Yeah.
have a 9 out of 10 shot on this one.
Yeah, and my credit's solid. It's good. My concern is that they'll be like, you don't have any history running this. But I've, based on other people I talked to, they really shouldn't be evaluating my credit. It should be mostly on this, unless I have some red flags in my history. So I feel pretty good about that. Plus, Texas Republic knows it. Do you think they'll have any concern about the seller leaving money in the deal and me versus me bringing any equity to the deal?
It,
Other than my
it, it,
earnings money?
it truly depends upon that lender's risk appetite because I've got a couple of banks in Birmingham that they don't care at all about if they're leaving money in the deal or not. I got one bank that doesn't really like it, so I've just developed like an awareness for what those banks' appetite is, and then when a certain type of deal pops up, I know who to call. Um, Again, that might just be something you just ask the lender and say, "Hey, this is what we've negotiated." Um, you still have first position. He's just going to leave money in the deal, and you can even explain it because sometimes these guys honestly are not like the sharpest tools in the shed. You can explain to him, "Hey, this is just a tax position for the seller, and that's why he's leaving money in the deal." You don't have to tell him you're not showing up with any money. You can just say, "Hey, this is just a great tax opportunity for him and his family, and that's why we're structuring the deal this way. Do you want to continue to hold that collateral?"
Okay.
That's the way I approach. Anybody have a question on that? That was a good one, Brian. Way to go, man.
I do have a question about that actually. That was on my list of things to ask about your process for the seller carry. Because I've done a lot of those, transactional funding for a lot of those scenarios, and oftentimes the strategy that people I know that use it, they provide proof of funds, they provide a down payment, but they just deposit that down payment for the day of closing and then transact it back out and replace it with the seller carry as a second transaction after closing of the first. So I was wondering about your process for that. So it sounds like some of your banks are just comfortable with it. They'll do it. You don't need to show proof of funds. They just know the thing's going to be fully financed. What's that process typically look like?
So, yeah, I would say this: the banks, as long as they're in first position, in my experience, these banks do not care if there is some other, attached lien to a property, as long as they have the first collateral. I did a deal back in December where I was buying a partner out of a building, and I had a bank take a second position mortgage behind another bank. So that was, and then I'll spare you everything, but I just ballooned him out recently from the same bank that has the first position. But I would say that the relationship with your lender is the key, and I've kind of said it before where not every time you have to do it this way, but if you guys present, this spreadsheet, the proposal for finance, you show how and why the structure of a deal is done a certain way. Like you don't just say, "Oh, I'm in it for no money." It's more like, "Look, here's the information, here's the math. This is why this deal makes sense at this price." And most importantly, the seller leaving money in the deal because of look how much money in capital gains, he's going to save. And you position your why behind the deal structure. I mean, these bankers they need people like us. They need sophisticated borrowers because the rest of them, like you said a second ago, Brian, like they're looking at credit scores, need proofing of funds. Like we need all these, because that's more of like how a typical person would go. But when you've got like, 5 or 6 pages, describing a deal in detail, and you've got this pro forma with the numbers and the metrics to prove why it makes sense, you can really win over any loan committee if they're on the fence about lending you the money. Because if you can go in with some conviction and confidence behind what you're talking about, they're going to believe in you. They're going to like, this guy knows what he's talking about. Like this guy is sophisticated, and we want to lend money to sophisticated people, and we'll take the collateral, especially guys that are already lending money on a building and it's just going to be a new borrower. That's how I did my very first deal. I literally got the loan from the bank that had the mortgage already. I didn't have any relationship with that guy at all. And I probably wasn't qualified. I didn't have the proof of funds for the $400,000 down payment, and I didn't have any of that stuff. But we just I presented the offer to him. I said, I'm gonna buy this property. I'd like to offer you collateral on this property if in exchange for a $1 million loan. And so I was never asking anything. I was just offering. I'm offering you an opportunity. You guys hear me say that a lot. I'm offering you an opportunity, and for for $1 million loan, I'll give you this building as collateral to that loan, and make monthly consistent interest payments, that kind of thing. That's just music to their ears. So
Yeah, interesting. I've just seen mostly in the single family realm just pushback on having even a second position. So it's good to hear. Like I said, there's strategies to make it happen. If it becomes an issue, I'm wondering, do you see any problem with just not bringing it up?
If I'm being transparent, my banker will even ask me, be like, "Hey, have you like negotiated with the seller? Yeah, is he gonna leave money in the deal?" Like,
Right.
he's
He
like
knows
all
how
on
you
board
work.
with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
that I'll call, and that's kind of where you develop that friendship too. And we're it's going back and forth and talking about deals, and he's like, is he going to leave money in the deal? Like, what are you going to negotiate that? And I you know I my philosophy, I'd say, is like I try and be as transparent as I possibly can with I call my banker my partner, right? So I'm trying to say this is exactly how and why we're going to structure this deal this way. When I buy this property, this is how I intend to improve the value by doing this, that, and the other. Just kind of going over exactly how I'm going to double the value of a building. And I give them my game plan. I tell them exactly what I'm gonna do, and then I just offer the building as collateral in exchange for the loan. And then at that
Yeah.
point, it's like to me it feels like a very simple sales pitch, and they're on board. I mean, again, because you just told them exactly how and what you're gonna do. You didn't, and then when it comes through, they get paid, so they're thrilled, right? So that's been my experience. I do try and tell the whole story like on every single deal. I don't really want to keep anybody in the dark. That's just my preference. So I'm not
No,
saying that
I like
any other
that.
way is wrong. That's just the way that I've tried to do it.
No, I think that's more professional for sure.
Um, but
Nolan, have you ever sold seller financing to their CPA?
yeah, that's usually when they go and leave more money in the deal.
I mean, talking directly to the CPA because the off-market deal I'm working on, the CPA is the owner's son.
Oh
So
wow,
I tried to sell them. I was bringing up taxes during the walkthrough,
sure,
and then he said, "Oh, anything about that? You need to talk to Ryan. He's the owner's son. He's our chief finance officer kind of guy."
cool. I will say I have not dealt directly with the accountant before. I always just say, hey, after I make the pitch, after I've, again, built up the time with them, developing a friendship, it's like, after showing them exactly the numbers, hey, I really recommend you go speak with your tax professional here, with your CPA, to confirm that this strategy even works for, your current situation. But then when it's not a hard sell, you're just offering them the opportunity and it makes logical sense. I've discovered that that's when they'll call me back, usually within a day, and ask if they can leave more in the deal because their CPA. I mean, think about it for all of us. Like Matt was just saying. I mean, how many deals are really done with second position mortgages? They're just not offered that often because I don't think a lot of people understand how they work. I mean, I'll get questions all the time like, how do you actually close a deal with a second position mortgage? Like, I've never done that, and that can't happen. That's not real. And I think a lot of people just don't really comprehend the tax rules that much, but nobody's offering it, nobody's positioning it properly. And again, I didn't come up with that solution either. That was, brought to me by the guy that I bought my first building from. He's the one that offered, and then I kind of came up with the sales pitch. But I think you speak to the CPA just like you would if he was the regular owner. You just say, look, maybe you're in this circumstance, maybe you're not. But it's worked for some of our other partners that have done this with sellers, and it's saved them in taxes. Plus, they get new money coming in every month because they're earning interest on, the debt. So a thought like that, I'd say.
All right. And also one more question.
Yeah.
So I tried to send the pre-due diligence questions, and then the owner wants a letter from the bank. I talked to Zane about this. He wants a letter from the bank proving that we have the capability to buy his buildings.
A letter from the bank having the capability. That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I talked to one of the bankers on your list, and he said that's not a thing because that's like a legal document saying that we can land on this building that we know nothing about.
Yeah, that's interesting.
No, that's happened to me before. I think it's like a letter that shows proof of funds.
Yeah. Yep.
It's not like a legal document or anything. I've had to do it.
Yeah, I actually talked to Renaissance today, and because I'd mentioned to you, Nolan, that I encountered that a bit as well on one of the deals I'm looking at. And it's not like the way my broker posed it was proof of funds, but in reality, I think what would suffice is you've shown the deal to the bank, and the bank has kind of a letter of interest, is what one guy called it. I think it was Patrick that called it that, where it's just basically the bank says, we potentially are willing to partner on this, or it's more professional than that, right? But it's that they're interested in funding it, and they it's tied to your LLC, Michael, and so that's your supporting documents to say here's our capabilities to buy this building.
Okay, that helps a lot. I'll call Patrick then.
Letter. I wrote down a letter of interest. So really just ChatGPT and put Renaissance logo at the top of it.
Don't do that.
I'm just joshing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't, again, I don't think that's the wrong thing. Maybe out of the gate, that might be important, especially as you're developing relationships with these lenders like that too. But yeah, that's it. I personally have not experienced that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think your relationship, where you're at, Nolan, you don't have the need because they know you. But if I'm coming sort of out of the blue, I don't have any assets of this size. They think I might be wholesaling, right? So I'm going to a broker. I'm not able to talk to the owner in a lot of these cases, and so they want to just see capability. And I refer to my investment group, and that we have the ability to back this deal and all that. But they still, especially the savvy brokers, they're looking for a little more proof, so that they don't get in the middle of due diligence. The attorneys are being paid, and then we go, well, we can't dispo it because we don't actually have a buyer. That's probably where they've ended up at.
I understand. So that's yeah. They're asking from maybe some experience, some bad experience.
Yeah.
They are. Yeah. I understand.
Yep.
Well, maybe that's what it can then do too, as you guys are moving forward. Then is might even come down to that relationship with the broker then too. So when you've got that where the broker says, hey, these guys can close, you might not have to have that letter of interest. But again, maybe that's another thing I can add on our blueprint is, what is a letter of interest and how do you get it? That kind of thing.
Yeah, that was one term, and which was, proof of funds or whatever. So I don't think you need to show your bank account, but if there was a sort of a document to support the capabilities of the purchasing team, so
Yeah, Matt and I were talking about this the other day, just on the proof of funds, and everyone has a different opinion about this, I think, but I personally do not ever want to share with the seller or the opposing side my hand. And if I'm showing them how much money I've got in an account, I feel that puts me at a disadvantage. So my recommendation, again, this is just how I've done it, is anytime someone is asking for information, if it's somehow a requirement, right? If they're getting information from you for something, try and find a way to get 2 times the information out of them, right? Like find a way to do something to where if you have to give up a card somehow where you are, make them give up two. It doesn't even matter what it would be, right? But find a way to get something for something versus just being like, okay, yeah, here's a proof of funds letter to make sure I can close. It's like, instead, say we need this, we need in this, and then we'll exchange that for proof of funds. Just get something for it, that kind of thing. So um, that's just the thought that I kind of just would consider. Don't just give up information without some quid pro quo. Like get something for it, in exchange for it.
And in that case, that one's in Michigan, where I'm basically in the middle of countering them. So this one is a pretty strong deal. The broker said, "Hey, if I can come forward with some proof of funds," is what he called it, but if I have a letter from a bank saying I can do this, um, he probably would be willing to come down to my counter. So I went pretty low. I went with 1.55 million, and now I'm up to 1.625, I believe, which still really works very strongly. So that's where I need some proof of funds. So what I've done since we've texted is I presented it to a couple of banks, and now I'm working on that letter. So yeah, that's how I'm approaching it. So I don't feel like I'm giving up a lot at this point, because it's now like, hey, prove it that you can actually take this down.
Okay, cool. Well, that's great to hear. Like you said, it sounds like each circumstances are each a little unique and different, but
Yeah.
100%. Good
Yeah.
deal. Next thoughts, next questions. What else is anybody else working on?
I feel like I keep talking. If no one else has a deal to share, I'd
Well,
like
that's
to
great.
show
Yeah.
one. So if I can share the screen,
Great.
then send you a request.
This year. Wrinkly most.
We've been blasting offers. I hate to say it a little bit, Nolan, but because of our location, we can't walk buildings and develop relationships as much. But we've had some good relationships via phone,
Yeah.
good calls, and we have an offer out and are in the middle of negotiating on this one. Hopefully, yeah. So I'm sharing on 1475 B&H. This is a multi-tenant. I really like this building. It's actually multiple buildings. So it's got 2 different structures plus some land. So we talk about value add, and it's right there, sitting there, potentially to fence it in
Totally.
and add some storage. One of the tenants is a mining support type business. So they may have equipment. If not, then it's, go to somebody else, fence in an area, and add some to it. But as it is, their offer is their ask is 1.75 at the current rent. It's really strong for us, and I came in at 1.524, and I'm gonna probably end up at about 1.625, I believe. So we are. This is where I did provide some information to Patrick to see if they have interest in it, and then I can provide some additional strength to the offer.
but they did counter, and this is a savvy guy that did accept seller carry. However, they want a 7.5% interest rate. We came in at a 3%. So we obviously, I'm going to counter, and I think he bumped it on the high end because of just as a strong counter. I'm thinking we could probably get it in at 5 or 6.
Yeah.
So I'm going to counter at 4.5 or 4.9, and then talk them down on the earnest money as well. That's too high in my opinion. 5%. Oh, I would do 3, but 5 is a little too strong.
I wouldn't even do 3. I just do 1. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's not a showstopper, but it does put a commitment out there on our part that's a little too strong.
Sure.
I don't know if he's anchoring at 5, if I can get it at 1 and make that happen. And I don't want to kill the deal because of that. But I'd rather ask him, if I can get, if he's asking for market rates, well, that doesn't benefit me. I don't want to refinance him out too soon. I want him to be, partnering for several years. If he keeps at 7.5, I'm going to refinance it and buy him out sooner. So wouldn't he rather make the money? That's going to be my approach there.
Smart. Yeah, finding his motivation and what he's trying to do. What's important to him.
Clearly he's wanting to, make, keep some capital in there. But it's a great DSCR. And the cash flow is pretty good.
Remind me too, Matt, when you're running these numbers, I mean, do you got a guy that will do 30 years on your amortization?
Is that off? What's the amortization should be? Maybe
I would probably start it at 20. I probably started at 20. You can probably find somebody out there that will do 25.
Okay, so does that kill my deal? 1.64.
No, it definitely won't kill it. I just think about every lender will do 20 years. I don't know a ton of guys that are doing 30 years on commercial, but they're out there. They're out there, but
it was that private capital company, but their interest rate was higher. So yeah. But I'll set it.
I mean, especially if this guy's wanting to leave, 35% in the deal. I mean, that'd be a blessing right there,
Mm-hmm.
And also too, I'll say this too, Matt, when the time gets closer, I can introduce you to a couple other lenders in Birmingham that might have appetite for these projects.
Okay.
Because Renaissance, and Patrick doesn't mind me sharing this, but Renaissance is probably the least favorite. They give strong rates, and they can do 2 years of interest only. Like they can get cute on the terms, but Patrick typically does not like having somebody leaving money in the deal. Where my guy at West Alabama and then my guy at Millennial Bank, they'll do 85%, 25-year AMs. The interest rates are a little bit higher. Yeah, there's Mason. Yeah, Mason. And then you can call Patrick Weatherly. I don't really know him. I've never done a deal with him. But Ryan
this morning.
Yeah, Ryan and Mason are my two guys when it comes to creativity. Mason's turned into one of my really good friends at this point too. But
yeah. So the challenge is that I'm trying to remember. I think I actually skipped West Alabama because of the name. So all of them I called. The only one that was willing to work outside, because this is in Illinois, so the others were really focused in your market. Yeah,
Millennial's not very large. I think they've got like 280 million of assets, which is like small for a bank.
Yeah.
Renaissance has billions.
Right.
But okay. See you, Brian. But again, it doesn't hurt to call him. I don't think it would hurt because, like you said, Matt, I mean, you're looking at something in Illinois right now. Who's to say in a couple weeks you're not looking at again in some in Louisiana? You don't know. So just another, but like I said, Ryan is really great. Sharp banker, Mason Sharp. Like I said, I have Patrick Weatherly on there. I can honestly say I haven't talked to that dude in a couple of years, probably like a year or so. So
he was very helpful, responsive.
Good.
And I can I can transactionally fund it. The way I can do it, is put the owner on an LLC, and so it's not actually not a second position. It's ownership in an entity with the
Wow.
same basically payout and structure. It's just that he's actually legitimately an investor partner, and so there's no second that the bank sees.
That's smart. I
So
know.
and that way you get around any. And I actually have attorneys that can do it. They do it all day long, 30 a
What
month.
would
So
be the description of that? Like, what is that called?
uh,
Study that.
so you're structuring the second in an LLC. So it's a equity partner.
The owner of the building, or the existing seller becomes a percentage owner of this new entity.
Yep.
Interesting.
And so the operating agreement is written, what the payment structure is like, how he's getting paid,
Wow.
if he's not paid, if there's delinquency, then he has the right to take over the entity totally.
Okay.
So there's really no having to move the title back to his possession. He is the possessor in the business. So yeah,
That's
that's commonly how they're doing it. So you're not really having to talk to banks about that.
okay. I like that. That's creative.
So
Very good.
okay, I just wanted to run it by you, see if there was any red flags you saw. We're still working on leases, and because of some of the other criteria provided, we're looking at his P&Ls and making sure everything's good before I counter. That was my like, hey, you show me what you got before I make any next steps on it.
No, I think it looks good. And like you said, even if you were to, you know, fence that lot off or do something around there by, renting out some more dirt or something, I don't know, but buying it at a 10 like that is, and you can turn it into a 12 or a 13, that's a pretty good day. It's awesome.
Okay, thanks, appreciate
Okay.
it.
Anyone else as we kind of start rolling towards the end here? All right. All right. Well, what we'll do is appreciate Zane had to miss today. Unfortunately, his grandfather's not doing too well, so he wasn't able to make it today. But if you guys again like we say, any thoughts, questions, whatever that you're needing, email us, text us, call us, whatever it is. We're ready to do anything we can. So, like I said, I know Brian left a minute ago, but I think what you guys are doing with the brokers and then can start moving that direction with some of the lenders as well. Your confidence to understand the vocabulary is going to go through the freaking roof when you're able to sit with the lender and understand and articulate what you're trying to do. And then you guys are on the same wavelength and page when it comes to the vocabulary. It's very thrilling. Like it's really fun because you feel like hey, we're on the same page. We're trying to move something good like that. So that might be some homework for everyone is to go find to go meet up with a local banker this week and to do to go sit down with coffee for 45 minutes. Don't talk much real estate, get to know them as an individual, and then share with them your financial statement and your tax returns and just see where a relationship like that over the next 6 months can take you because you know, you get to know somebody like that and that opportunity presents itself. You just do not know what opportunity could pop up, So that'd be my recommendation and homework for the week. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for making it. I appreciate it. Again, call us, text us whenever you need for anything. I will have this video recorded. We'll blast it up on school. And if you got, hopefully, I know Zane, we've got, I want to say we've got like 18 people that have signed up for the summit. So if you can make it, we would love to have you. Like I said, we'll keep on sending some more information out to you guys. But again, that's going to be November 20th, 21st, and 22nd in Birmingham. So it's pinned at the top of school right now, all the information on that. So would love to have as many people from our group as we can there because it's just the third year we're doing it. And I think it's just going to be a really great event to get in person with everybody and, just get together and network and kind of fellowship a little bit. It's fun when everyone's in person versus, just Zoom calls, I guess. So awesome. All right, everybody, y'all have a great rest of your week and weekend, and we will see you guys next week. Okay.
Appreciate
Guys.
Thanks, Nolan.